The headset says I'm connected, and it looks like I'm connected. And if I touch that stupid thing, maybe I might disconnect. Good morning. I can't resist. I was just going to take care of myself this morning. As I said, I take care of others too much and not myself enough. And there's some things I really need to get on this morning. So it's Monday. This is the 23rd of December. I have until today to file against USAA. I actually filed on Friday, but I'm going to go downtown and do the service. And if there's a problem, I still have time to go file again. But I'm tired of an insurance company that jacks me around like that. But even the health insurance company is jacking me around right now. And you would think that United Healthcare would have learned something from the last little fiasco they had, if they really had it. I don't know. I don't trust anything I hear on the news. I don't believe a damn thing. But what I'm going to tell you about is important stuff. Yesterday was the birthday of a survivor on the USS Liberty, and I tried to get him to go on tape with me. I wanted to interview him for you and create a record. And this was important, but this gentleman is extremely private. The only reason I know he's a USS Liberty survivor is because he thanked me more than a decade ago when I mentioned it on the air, because he thought they were forgotten. Well, back when I had a show on AM radio out of the Phoenix area, he was in the dance club, and I saw him, and he thanked me. Now, he's a tall gentleman with white hair, nice head of white hair. He's young. He's older than I am, but he was out golfing when he called me back. So I never could golf. I tried. Physically, I can't do it. He's still able to do it, and he still looks good, and he's still very active. But he thinks that he doesn't understand the politics as well as the other gentleman who was recently interviewed by Candace Owens. And I think it's kind of sad, because I think we need to get each one of these men's stories on videotape and preserve it. I also think that the other thing is that by hearing his story, that the rest of Americans might wake up. More Americans would wake up if they saw him and heard his story, and we discussed the entire matter between he and I. His claim that he doesn't understand the politics as well as the other guys. Well, I don't either understand the contemporary politics, but I understand the biblical history. So I understand where this battle comes from, where this fight comes from. And I was hoping that he would actually interview me and ask me questions, so we could set up a natural dialogue whereby you would be better informed. I want to get you informed so that you can take action. The country is in bad shape right now. We have a group of people that wants to, let's give the Americans what they have coming, was the response at Bilderberger when they announced that it was time and they were going to take down America, the United States. So, and that was more than a decade ago. That was reported by a fellow whose credibility is questionable, to say the least. Alex Jones. Now, Candace Owens posted her video, my personal message, and I went right over it thinking it's just her personal message. Then I got it, somebody else sent it to me, or I got it from another source, saying it was about the USS Liberty. And that I took notice to, and I listened intently to it right straight through. I didn't even break it up. It is our unsung history. United States ship Liberty, USS Liberty. I'm going to put it in the title. YouTube is on the other side, so they may decide they have to suppress it because it's not real history, because who the hell are they going to cite as the authority on this one? Now, I got into trouble because they cited the World Health Authority against me, and of course I'm familiar with the studies published by the head medical doctor for the WHO. So, but they win because they have this automated system. There's nobody to talk to, and There's no immediately available soft targets, and I really don't feel like killing anyone today anyway. You know, I feel good today. No, I really just don't have it in me to do something like that. I hope I have it in me to be able to defend myself. I'm not sure I could do that. Lorraine, come here. Come on. Come on. Oh, yes, make your appearance. Oh, yes. Give me kisses. Oh, yes. The USS Liberty in 1967, June, I don't remember the exact date, was attacked. And the attack started with French Mirage warplanes painted black, no insignia on them. And gradually, as the USS Liberty was attacked, it unfolded and they realized it was our allies, our only ally in the Middle East, our only friends in the Middle East, Israel. So what I'm here to tell you is what little I can remember from what my acquaintance told me a few years ago. And I tried to go over it last week on the phone with him. And I sent him a couple text messages. But I usually don't bother warriors. I usually don't ask questions. I usually just listen. For one, they tend to tell me more. They feel more comfortable. And the other is they get to say what they want. And they unload on me. They discharge on me. I had one fellow who went into North Korea and killed a general. And he lost his sniper, and he was a prisoner of war for 3 weeks. But I think he's still alive. I'm not sure. But at the end of the story, he told me he wasn't allowed to tell the story. They told him for 40 years. And he stood there for a minute looking down, calculating. He says, yeah, just about 40 years. And of course, I let that one go as best I could. Then I met another fellow who was on his way. It was Christmas Eve service over at the church, and he was there early, and I got the schedule wrong, and I was there early. And he was, he really wasn't crying, but he was kind of crying. He was upset because he had to go back to Afghanistan for his 4th tour. And he told me what his MOS was. I don't even know what it stands for, except it's what his job is. He was a scout. I know what a scout is. A scout's a shooter. And he's already almost died being deployed before. And not only that, but the fellow he had 18 years in. He had 2 years to go to retirement. And he didn't want to violate the terms of his contract. And I shored him up. I listened to him. He'd been stabbed before. Yeah, real warrior class. Anyway, I passed him on to a World War II vet who had been in the Navy, and they got along real good, and that cheered him up more than anything I could do. Something about having been in combat, these fellows can usually talk to each other in a way the rest of us can't. And that's why when they come to each other's aid, when one is feeling suicidal, they're very effective. Now, if by chance this is the season for suicidality, and there are 2 groups that commit suicide at the highest rates, and I think one of them is going to shock you. I think it's going to surprise you. Of course, we all know that the military, Army in particular, but the military commits suicide at a very high rate. We used to only use 1 in 21 or 22 a day to suicide. I think we're up to closer to 30 right now. So the problem has gotten worse, not better. The other group with a very high suicide rate, and I haven't been able to keep track of this because this is something that our keepers don't want you to recognize because you might want to take action then. College co-eds. If it wasn't for the veterans, our boys coming back home who kill themselves so often, if they weren't in the headlines, you would know that college co-eds have been committing suicide at an outrageous rate. And they're not only that, they're doing the suicides using the techniques that men have been noted primarily to use. And I'm not going to go into describing it. I don't want to pass ideas like that along. It is serious, though. If you are feeling like offing yourself, you're feeling like you want to do that, then give me a call. I just had a acquaintance admit she wanted to disappear, and I understand where she's at, and I'm doing my best to help her. And I'm so limited in resources, it's not funny. But also her habits are such that, well, I sleep when the sun goes down. I'm not going to have a stranger in my house. It's just the way it is going to be. So if you feel suicidal, there is a suicide hotline. I'm not going to publish the number for that. But there's also me. And so feel free to reach out to me. I'm pretty effective in that. I don't have records. I don't have a license. I don't have any insurance either, malpractice insurance. So I am very vulnerable. And so generally speaking, I limit it to military men who have served, because usually they don't want a record of it. And I can respect that. And if they turn to help, the suicide hotline or for professional help, there's a record created. And that record can and often does get used against them. So me, I'm pretty safe. I don't remember things very well, so I tend to forget. And I'm not going to put anything in writing to help prompt me to remember. There ain't going to be no records to subpoena. I'm not even going to ask questions. I will ask some questions, but I'm not going to be exploring anything. I know that I have tremendous curiosity and I want to know things. And one fellow I talked with actually reported directly to the president. He was a platoon leader, an enlisted man. He and his platoon, well, I don't know if it was a platoon or a squad, actually. Another really nice guy. You never would have realized he was a trained killer and what he was capable of doing. And I never asked him real private, personal questions. And we hung out a bit, and he was a nice guy. And he reported directly to the president. Then I met another fellow as well, and ended up sitting next to him at a gun show, and both bored. And he's trying to sell his pistol, nobody's interested in it. And I'm trying to sell some ammo, nobody's interested in it. Not many anyway. I ended up talking to him for about 4 hours. He reported directly to President Kennedy. And he told me a story and discharged a story. And I was amazed this guy survived everything he'd been in. He'd fought in 4 different armies, if you will. He had actually been in at least 3. And he had been in special forces, and then plus he had worked for the company, for the CIA. And then I do believe he was actually off the books. So the CIA's got their people that are their agents that are on the books, and once in a while, quite often, they use somebody off the books. Anyway, I've met some amazing men, and I grew up with some amazing men. My neighbor across the way was the last remaining World War II ace. And my friend I played with in the sandbox, who was slightly younger than me, became the captain of a ranger platoon and ended up working for the company afterwards. So we have got people that do things behind the scenes for us all the time, and they make great sacrifices for us, and we never ever hear about it. And all I can do with these men is listen and be friends. And if there's something I can say to shore them up, I do it. I do pretty good at that. I am happy that I'm talented in this way. The price I paid to get these talents was a little bit too big. And if you follow me at all, and welcome to new subscribers. I picked up 1 or 2 the last couple of days. And I have to admit I'm a little selfish, a little self-centered, because I know if I could get my buddy, my acquaintance on videotape, my subscribership would more than double. It would launch my channel. Maybe I could sell some Bibles, and maybe I could actually get the t-shirt vendor going as well. And maybe it would lead to me pairing off with a very beautiful woman who would help me in my mission, my enterprises. Who knows what it could lead to? I sit here fantasizing, hoping and praying for the best. But the problem is that you mostly don't know about the USS Liberty. The USS Liberty was basically a communications spy ship, if you will. It was wired up, everything, for monitoring radio signals and basically electronic snooping. It was in the Mediterranean Sea, parked a few miles off from Egypt, outside in international waters. And the crew, according to the Candace Owens interview, had 30 CIA agents on board, and they were told that they were mapping the bottom of the sea, which of course is not what they were doing. And from what I picked up from this recent interview of Candace Owens, the only reason our ship was saved was by a Soviet submarine. And I'm going to tell you that right at the get-go so you'll understand how serious this was. The Soviet submarine, it was told by the USS Liberty survivor and president of the survivors, Candace Owens, the Soviet submarine threatened Israel. That if the USS Liberty sank, they were going to nuke Israel. And they were sitting right out there ready to do it. That's what their orders were. And the USS Liberty hobbled its way. Holes in the hull, many men dead. According to my buddy, years ago he told me about 100 died. I think today there might be 50 survivors. A lot more than 100 have died. And definitely this thing shortened their lives. And carrying this burden and being threatened by generals, 4-star generals, telling them, if you talk about this again, I'm going to have you killed. Do you understand? That's a hell of a load to carry. The USS Liberty was out there, and it was monitoring the situation between Israel and Egypt. And the Israelis attacked it. Now, I can't tell you exactly why they attacked it and what the real purpose was, because during the interview that Candace Owens received, the gentleman said he believed that the United States had hung them out to dry and hired Israel, engaged Israel to sink our ship. A false flag operation. And I believe the motivation and the story about the Soviet nuclear submarine I believe it's all true. Why? Because we have a B-52 pilot who reported he spent that morning along with other B-52 pilots at the end of the runways, loaded to the gills, full nuclear payloads, full fuel. B-52 engines, I think there's 8 engines on those. It's been a while since I've looked at one. The wings droop when they're on the runway. They only lift up when they're in the air. Those wings have a lot of engines on them, and they are massive planes. The B-52 pilot revealed to us that he was waiting, and he was on orders, waiting for the order to take off and go, and he checked to see where he was going. His destination, he was going to drop his nuclear bombs, American nuclear bombs, from a B-52 bomber on Cairo, Egypt. Probably the most populated city on the planet at the time. Today that would be Mexico City would be the most populated city on the planet, but at the time I think Cairo had more people. If I'm wrong, you can check it, you can correct me in the doggone comments down below. But do give me a thumbs up and share this with people who want to save America. That's what the purpose of this video is. And yes, I don't invite people to share these videos liberally very often, because I just want these things to be shared by believers. I don't want to offend anybody and have them report to YouTube and YouTube take me down because my religious beliefs are offensive, or my desensitization of my audience is offensive. I think it's important that we be able to talk freely. I think it's important we be able to laugh at ourselves and each other. I believe it's important we should be able to have an open dialogue. I listen to that channel, Dialogue Works. Pretty good channel. I think we should be able to talk freely about everything and anything. And we actually have a First Amendment free speech rights in this country. And I assert my First Amendment free speech rights against YouTube, Fascist Book, any of them. And by the way, those are not independently, privately owned companies. They're all offshoots and psychological operations of our own Department of Defense. In other words, our government founded them, funded them, started them, owns them, controls them, and uses them to spy upon us and to predate upon us and to prepare so that they can squash us should we decide we want to restore the original structure our founders gave us. That's my purpose, to bring that to your attention and to bring you the best Bible in the world. This Bible is the latest and greatest in the English language. Okay, proper name version of the King James Bible. This is the large print copy, leatherette copy. There's a black leatherette copy, large print with tabs. That's the top of the line. And they're less than half the price of the competitors. My prices are the best anywhere. That includes shipping delivery to you. And if that's not the case, get a hold of me and let me know. And if you find out it's not the lowest price, get a hold of me and let me know. I think it's just barely cheaper than it is on Amazon. And I do get a little stipend off it. I don't get as much as what I know Amazon gets off it. Amazon probably gets twice off these things. So more of the money that I get or goes to my sale of this Bible goes to the publisher. And there are 5 different versions. When you hit that link and there's a dropout box, you can choose from the 5. However, I believe one's been sold out. And since they were printed in Belarus, I don't think we're going to get any for a while. I don't know. Maybe they're printing up another batch right now, or maybe we'll never get a batch again. I know they're shipped by ships. They come by the ocean route, and they actually go around the globe quite a bit before they get here. USS Liberty was attacked viciously, and they tried to sink the ship. And the first thing they went after were the communications. They shot the antennas out. They shot all the electronics up as best they could because they didn't want the ship radioing for help. And they knew what the ship was there about. One thing I don't like about the smartphones, maybe it's more of a criticism of me and my inability to command my own electronic leash, which is what these are. These are the spying systems. These are the systems whereby they're controlling us. I talk freely about it because they're doing such horrible things to us. And we need to be aware, and we need to put an end to this as fast as we can. For my readings in the Bible, it says that for my reading of it, it says we're going to rise up in the Holy Spirit. And we are going to put an end to these elite, and that we are actually going to save Mother Earth. We should think of the earth as the mother. I'm not saying worship the earth, but the elite are putting the earth to death, if you will. They're harming the earth, and the bombs and their plans and the technologies they have can destroy the earth's capacity to support life. It looks like they may have done it before to us. The USS Liberty was attacked, and the attack went on for quite a bit. And I can't tell you much about the history. I wish the buddy was here. He could tell us about it. That would be very important. I guess he thinks he has nothing to contribute, but he has got something to contribute. And I got things wrong. I thought he was the quartermaster. He was a supply officer, I guess. And I thought he carried a lot of the bodies out because he was a tall guy. And I remember him mentioning he carried somebody. But he told me that he had actually been wounded almost immediately in the attack. That's what he told me a couple of days ago. And so he wasn't able to do that much. And I didn't want to interview him on the phone. I wish I had now, because it looks like I won't get a chance to talk with him again. I will forward this video to him. I know he'll be watching it. So I apologize for my inability to convey this accurately to you. But my understanding is that the ship's radio officer or one of the seamen scampered across the deck under machine gun fire and put the wire back together, and the USS Liberty was able to get off its 4th Mayday. I don't know if I've got that right or not. And because of that, the attack was called off. However, it appears as though the real reason the attack was called off is because the Soviet Union stepped in there. President Johnson is quoted, one of the most famous quotes ever, and his motivation was really big. You see, President Johnson had already given Israel illegally weapons behind all of our backs. Nuclear missiles, nuclear bombs, nuclear materials. Literally gave those things to them. See, the reason he was in office is because he helped assassinate his president. And Israel were the assassins. Israel killed Kennedy. Let that thing sink in. Yes, a lot of people wanted Kennedy killed. Yes, there's a lot of stories about how he reneged on the promise that he didn't know the deal his father had made to put him in office. And they reneged on the deal, so to speak, with the mob. And yes, we know that the election was basically stolen by some sort of voting manipulation out of the city of Chicago, and that political machination there, the machine there. But the fact is that the story goes like this. President Kennedy was meeting with not Menachem Begin, David von, I'll think of his name in a minute. The Prime Minister, David Ben-Gurion, the Prime Minister of Israel, who was older than he was, with white hair. Yeah, he was growing up a little bushy on the sides, and he was a short fellow, much shorter than President Kennedy was. And he wanted nukes, and he wanted Kennedy to give him nukes. And apparently Kennedy said, kind of offhand and unconsciously perhaps even, over my dead body. Or he said it to somebody else, over my dead body, Israel can have nukes. Whatever it was, this little guy, Prime Minister of Israel, internally said, I can do that, we can do that. And so Israel assassinated President Kennedy in order to get nukes. And when LBJ went into the White House, he gave Israel nukes, and he restarted the war the bankers wanted in Vietnam. And he also set about to do some horrible stuff and start World War III. That's what it looks like to me anyway. And I believe that that's what would have happened had the Liberty been sunk. Lorraine, come on, it's okay. You see something, huh? Off, down, good girl. Thank you for bearing with me. The U.S. Liberty was attacked several times by different jet sorties, and as well as by basically patrol boats, and they were torpedoed. The one torpedo that landed killed 30 men instantly, and Israel knew what they were aiming at because they torpedoed the ship right in the place where the 30 or 32 CIA operatives were working. killed 30 men from what I understand. The jets were called off. Now, I don't have any way to ask anyone questions on this, but I can put it out to you, the public, and ask you to do a little bit of help on this if you can. My understanding is that it was Admiral James, the same admiral that ended up doing the false flag at Tonkin, the Gulf of Tonkin. Admiral Morrison, Jim Morrison's father, was on a ship on an aircraft carrier, apparently, and sent over jets to rescue the USS Liberty. And Robert McNamara ordered the jets to return. McNamara was a son of a bitch. And apparently, at the very end, the president himself ordered the defense of the USS Liberty called off. And it is said that President LBJ said, I don't care if that ship sinks to the bottom of the sea and every last man aboard with it. I will not embarrass our friends Israel. Israel's not our friend, folks. Israel is not Israel. Israel's never been our friend. And I'm stating this because those of you who subscribe to my channel, please bear with me. Those who have never tuned in won't have your background. And of course, if my friend was here present with me and we were on camera, I would hope that he would ask me, when did this battle begin? Where did it start? And I would be able to tell him, this is the fight between good and evil. It started in a garden. It started with a fallen angel, a member of the fallen angels, one of the 6 leaders, according to Wikipedia. And by the way, the page has been removed. I pointed out to several people back in June and in July, it was gone. So basically, Gadriel, G-A-D-R-E-E-L, G-A-D-R-E-E-L, named Gadriel, was the angel in the garden that seduced Eve and had sex with Eve and fathered Cain. Cain murdered his half-brother Abel. Cain was kicked out of the garden with a mark on him so that anybody who harmed him would be cursed 7-fold. So whatever any harm that anyone did to Cain would be returned upon them 7-fold. And I also know how Cain died, by the way. But the main thing that you need to realize is that's in Genesis 6 we have the fallen angels, the son of gods, were conspiring to go into the daughters of men. It's not laid out in the Bible as well as it is detailed in the book of Enoch, the first book of Enoch. The angels were on Mount Hermon. They even agreed not to discuss the matter further, even among themselves. Once they left the mountain, at least they'd be overheard and it'd be discovered. So I'm telling you today that you need to discover this. You need to know this, and now you know this. So basically, Cain was kicked out to the land of Nod. That's in the Bible. He was kicked out east. So he went to Asia, if you will. And there he built cities and he took wives. So Cain was half fallen angelic DNA from what I call a Satan class of angel. That was Gadriel. And by the way, from the name Gadriel, we get the nickname Gad. And Gad, according to Pastor... Oh my God. I've always been bad with names. It's not just getting old. But, boy. I wanted to meet the fellow, but he refused to befriend me because someone told him I had a Jewish friend on Facebook. And he was death on the Jews. Paul Burnham. Pastor Paul Burnham. Let me know about this. He's the one that informed me. and we got the name Gad, which became God. God became the generic word for a class, an object, a noun, object, gods. And so what ended up happening to us is in our own Bible, and this is actually prophesied, I believe, in Jeremiah. Yahweh is speaking to Jeremiah and says, they're going to take my name away. You're going to forget my name. And of course, that would have been maybe 750 BC, somewhere around 700 BC. And I'll be darned, 274 BC, roughly, Ptolemy II, when producing the Greek Septuagint, took out the name Yahweh and put in the generic term God. That's how we got that. I need you to understand that. This is the fight between good and evil. This is the war that's been going on for this pretty much the entire Earth Age, or at least half of it. Cain went to the land of Nod, and he took wives. So Cain's children were actually half Mongoloid. Paul Burnham prefers to call them Chinamen. He doesn't like the term Mongoloid. I wonder, well, Paul's not around. He died a little over 3 years ago. Maybe it was 4 years ago at this point. Anyway, Gad seduced Eve, fathered Cain. Cain gets kicked out of the garden, builds cities, takes wives, and his descendants end up in the promised, the land that was to become promised. It was the land of Canaan, the land of the Canaanites. And so that part is missing pretty much from the Bibles, but you've got it. Can I document it and prove it? Well, I could probably, if I was to go back to my studies and maybe hang out in San Diego again and go into, have access to the libraries and all the books there. Or if my oldest niece was actually on speaking terms with me, and I could maybe hang out in the middle of the country while she helped me field the books that I need and the references that I would need to really research it thoroughly and totally. But who knows, maybe she'll see this at some point and decide she wants to actually carry on with my mission. And that would be nice. My mission is to awaken my brothers and sisters in Israel. It has nothing to do with that little postage stamp of a country over there in the Middle East that is founded upon lies, based upon terrorism and murder and genocide, and at the whim of the Rothschilds. It should be called Rothschild land. The other thing about the Rothschilds are they are the descendants of Canaan. They came from Frankfurt, Judenstrassen in Frankfurt, Germany. They changed their name to Rothschild, Red Shield. Very noble sounding name. And the name prior to that was Bauer, like on the show 24. The lead actor was Bauer. What was his first name? I don't remember. Put it down in the notes for me. Bauer was that secret agent's name, and I'm sure the Rothschilds loved every bit of it because they got to be on top of things. Their family name did, at least. I want to say Jeff Bauer, but I don't think that was it. I liked the show. I watched it while it was on, and it prepared and softened up the country with the psychological operations out of Hollywood through the CAA, the Creative Actors Association, of which President Joseph Biden is a member. And there's other people who are members of that too, who you think are politicians, yet they're registered as actors and actresses for hire with the Guild out of Hollywood. So they used the psychological operation, the show 24, to get you ready to accept a black president. They planned this stuff way in advance. So, this airman scrambled across the top of the deck, put the wires together, and they got off another Mayday. And it was with that Mayday that apparently the powers that be, and I don't mean the president, I mean the guy that tells the president what to do, or the committee, or the people that control things shut down their attempt to start World War III on us. Now, I'm from Alaska, that's home. Born in New Hampshire, it's my citizenship. And in Alaska, we have Sitka, which is the old capital. And it's a free port out. It's on an island in the waters. The runway is built on a dike out into the waters. It's amazing to land in it because you think you're going down in the ocean, and suddenly you touch down on the tarmac, and then you can see that, oh, you're out on the runway in the middle of the water. And there's a tall bunch of trees there, Sitka spruces, magnificent. And they used to do a lot of lumbering there, a lot of sawmills. And I propose that we become an independent nation, Alaska, and that we be the peacemakers between the Russian people and the American people, and that we reclaim Sitka as at least a second capital, and that we unite based upon that. And I propose that on the southern end of the island, among those tall spruces, and they are magnificent, and there's a beautiful bay there that's very, very exquisite, very much untouched by anything. And I think there used to be a sawmill down there, but it was long abandoned. But I propose that we establish an international park. And at this park, we have life-size bronze statues of those men and women who have saved us from World War III so many times. And this seaman should be there in that park because he saved us all. Him and his bravery saved the world. Medal of Honor isn't good enough for that man. We need something better. There are also 2 Russians that we need life-size bronze statues of down in that park. And one of them is the Russian colonel who called off the retaliation to a fake alert on their computer systems 3 times, or whatever it was. And they ordered him, and the computer system ordered him to launch his ICBMs. And he said no. And everyone was upset with him. And he held his ground. This colonel says, it's my job. I want visual confirmation, meaning I want to see the ICBMs coming up over the horizon because I can't get confirmation any other way. And those over him were pissed because he said, they're going to hit us. Those missiles are going to be too close. We're not going to be able to get ours off in time. And he says, no, it was his job, his decision. No missiles ever showed up over the horizon. It was a false alert. He stood his ground. They demoted him. They ruined his life. They ruined his family. Even his family disowned him. And he died somewhat brokenhearted. However, I understand that they hauled him up on the stage at the United Nations to laud him. And he told them not to laud him, that he was no hero. He was just doing his job. That's how he looked at it. He paid dearly. We need a full-size bronze of that colonel. And dare I say, I'd like to put the rank of general on the gentleman. He deserves to be acknowledged posthumously after saving the world from a nuclear total obliteration at that time. And there's another Soviet officer. He was the weapons officer above a submarine that we had attacked down somewhere off the coast of Cuba or off our east coast. And they lost radio contact, and the ship's officers, all except for this one officer, wanted to launch their ICBMs. They were convinced that the nuclear war had started. And this one officer said no, and he stood his ground as the sub was descending, apparently on the helpless side. That gentleman, we need a full life-size bronze statue honoring him as well. If you can think of anyone else that needs to be honored, put it in the notes down below. Please make comments about that. I would be very delighted and touched if you would do that. LBJ was a son of a bitch. He murdered his president to get power. And the man who actually called the shots, if you will, there were several involved. They involved almost everybody. They had a whole galley of shooters down there from the mob. The contract was that big and that massive. Oswald actually had saved the president just weeks earlier on November 4th from a certain assassination that was going to occur in Chicago. But by the time they got to Dallas, the bad guys figured out who Oswald was and what he was, and that he was undercover and that he had thwarted their plans. So they decided to use Oswald as their patsy. Oswald was murdered by Rubenstein, not Jack Ruby. That's what he shortened his name to. You do need to understand we are talking about the Jews, who are not Jews, but are the synagogue of Satan. That's Revelations 2:9 and 3:9 in the Bible. And so the people that are occupying Israel today are not descendants of the Israelites at all. They're not a descendant of Israel the man. Israel had 12 sons, 1 daughter. One of his sons gave him 2 grandsons whom he adopted. So we can rightfully say there were 13 tribes. I'm not taking that call. It's undoubtedly one of those. Those people won't leave me alone. The Medicare insurance fraud people call me by my full name and claim they've got my diagnosis or whatever there, and they don't have things right at all. And I don't buy anything from anyone over the phone regarding that. I don't agree to anything on the phone. I've already caught some fraud on my Medicare statement coverages, and I've turned all of those in every time. I go over those statements pretty regularly, and when I find the fraud, I call them up and I turn it in. I want some of these doctors or places, I want them going to prison. Where was I? Where were we? Oh, I wish my friend would have the dialogue with me. Rothschild, Red Shield, took his name from the symbol he used to mark his business and advertise his business on Judenstrasse. It was a red star, a red shield consisting of the Star of David. From the best I can tell, that's what his symbol was. And that symbol is in the Bible, but it's not the Star of David, and it's not blue. That's a hoax as well. That's part of their fraud. There was no Star of David. And so that represents Remphan. The Bible says it's Remphan, which is another name for Molech or Moloch. And there are other names for that evil god as well. I think the Egyptians may have called that god Apis or something because they worshiped the bull as well. And if you want to see what the old sacrifice, the old sacrificial rite was like, we have it from, I want to say 1933, July 3rd, 1933, Soldiers Field, Chicago. I think that's the right year, I'm not sure. That's when the World's Exposition was in Chicago. And at that, they did a mock ceremony. 155,000 people attended it the first time on the 3rd of July. I believe that was a Monday. I'm not sure. And I believe a few days later, on Thursday, they recreated, well, it was 150,000 people. And the second one that was estimated at 55,000 attended that because it went over so well and was so popular. It is a Getty image. There's a Getty silk screen watermark in the film showing that, and it's black and white. I suggest you watch that. And there is dispute as to whether or not that was just a mock ceremony, because the word was they actually had a name for the baby and that it was a little girl. And the reason all of those people scream when they do that is so that you can't hear the baby cry. That's right. So you won't hear the baby screaming to death as it's being burned in the open oven that they put the baby into. And that's a very accurate representation from the old artwork. And the people that put that on said they put it on purposely because it was a part of their history that they had, and they had overcome it. That's what they claim. I don't believe that. I think it was them marking their territory here, marking the United States of America as their own. I think they were basically declaring this in regards to that. Manage bookmarks, search bookmarks. All right. Wrigley is Wrigley. R-I-G. Wrigley Field. I'm not going to be there. I'm not going to be able to find it. I do have a bookmark from a long time ago, and I haven't seen it. And Celebration of Life. Let's see if that pulls it up. No, I'm not going to be able to find this for you. I'll have to look it up later, and I will follow up with a short video, let you know what it was. I want you to be able to see that. They'll probably scrub that off the internet. It is in a few locations right now. But it was a ceremony held during the World's Fair in Chicago, and it was by the Jews, and they were permitted to do it, even though all of the displays at the World's Fair were by nations. The Jews were able to have their own, and it went over so well with people that they repeated it. And I need you to understand, they did that right under our noses, and the word was that those were not mock sacrifices, those were real. I don't know. You tell me what you think. And if you can find out more, put it in the notes. Let us all know. So the man that arranged the assassination was in the CIA on what was known as the Israeli desk. And you can see videos of him here on YouTube. And his name was... he hates his middle name in particular because his middle name was Jesus. And his first name is James. James Jesus Angleton. And you will see him, and you need to listen to him yourself. There are videos of him being interviewed. He had a very ashen complex. He had an interesting demeanor. There's no telling how many people he's killed. But he was the one that set up the hit on John Fitzgerald Kennedy. James Jesus Angleton. The purpose of the assassination was so that Israel could get nukes. Also, the purpose of it was to restart the war that they had been planning since before World War II ended. The Vietnam War was planned before World War II ended. We can thank Colonel Prouty for that information, and a video of him is on YouTube as well, letting us know about this. So back in Subital Bay, they were going to be sending all the hardware that they'd used in World War II to North Vietnam and to North Korea. Korea and Vietnam anyway. Preparing for the next wars, which they planned for in advance. Please note that this war that they're doing, this has been planned. The problem is they don't have a reverse gear. They don't back up very well. And this is an all in or nothing game for them, because they know that if they don't blow us up and kill most of us, that we're going to get them. James Jesus Angleton, and they used a colonel. I do not have the identity of the colonel, but the colonel shook hands with the CIA supervisor on the scene that day, overseeing the triangulated hit, who took his son to work with him that day. The Bushes, Papa Bush and his son, were present there. And I'm not making this up. I'm just reporting it to you. So Papa Bush didn't know where he was on the day of the Kennedy assassination. Hell, even I remember where I was. I was in the 6th grade class in Fort View Elementary School outside of Indianapolis, Indiana, when Kennedy got whacked. It was sunny sky out there. There was the land was still waterlogged from the recent rains. And we were in school when the announcement came. They sent us all home, and I cried. Parents couldn't stop me from crying either. I cried quite a bit. This whole government is so dirty that all we can do is do the Great Reset as fast as we can. We need to do the Great Reset. And there's several things we should require Trump to do. One is no Bitcoin, no debt ceiling, unlimited debt ceiling. That's what the bankers want. The banks are the presidents of this country, and the CIA is like the queen of the land, if you will. Between the two of them, they run the nation. The people have no control over this. We haven't had control over it. The electorate hasn't had control over this nation since Woodrow Wilson was president. And by the way, these underground cities and bases, another president made that decision and decided to keep secret from you what's really in the Bible. And that is 9/11. In the book of Revelations, 9/11, it tells you who the angel is, the Hebrew name and the Greek name for the angel of the bottomless pit. It's in the Bible, 9/11. Look it up, you'll see. It may not be readily apparent to you on first read, but you will understand what I am talking about. And if you don't, let's put it this way. A year of the Lord is 12,068 years. Every 12,068 years, the earth goes through a horrible experience, and it's bad for everything that's on the surface. However, according to our native brothers and sisters, it is a purification of the earth. You will make me as white as snow. You will remove my sin, and you will make me spotless, and I will be pure as the whitest of snow, as 4,000 feet of snow fall, forming glaciers, beginning another glacier age. That happens not during my lifetime. I don't think it's possible. I'd be 94 years of age at that time. That's right. So you who are watching this, my average viewer, during your lifetime, when you're about my age, you're going to be here when it happens. Oh, and the big hit happens on Europe and Africa, on that side of the planet, not this side of the planet. Last time the big hit was on North America and South America. The Rothschilds came from the Bauer family. They were Jews on Judenstrasse, and he sold coins, rare coins, to the royalty, and became a gold handler and a money lender. And they started all this domination by the world banks that we're under today. And the name was Bauer. And they call themselves Rothschild. And their ancestors came from Khazaria, ancient Khazaria, which is mostly where the Ukraine is. It was much bigger than Ukraine. But the Ukraine is the heart of ancient Khazaria. And they were driven off by the Russians. The Russians and the Belarusians, the beautiful Russians. They were tired of their warring ways in about 1100 AD, and they drove them off, and those people went into Poland and into the Baltic states and into Germany and into the rest of the world. They are the Ashkenazi, and I like to emphasize the letters N-A-Z-I in the middle of that. Ashkenazi is how I like to say it. The Ashkenazi are converts. They're not genetic descendants of Israel. They're not genetic descendants of Israel the man. They're not Semitic peoples. They're Turkish, Mongolian peoples, and they're mixes. And they're mixes with everybody at this point, because you have got mixes with blacks, mixes with the Chinese. Mao Zedong was one of them. Henry Kissinger was one of them. The Rothschilds, a whole clan of them. And we have many others like the Rockefellers. Someday I'm going to shut off the notices on these phones while I'm making a video. Forgive me again for the interference with that. So I'm trying to give you the big picture, and we're at an hour. So I think we're pretty much up. And so I'm going to entitle this the USS Liberty. And no, I haven't told you the whole story. I wasn't there. I refer you to my personal message by Candace Owens, and I'll put that in parentheses so that you will go listen to the gentleman who wants to be interviewed, who actually knows a lot more than I know. He was there. We need to celebrate the USS Liberty, and we need to end all relations with Israel. We need to sever all relations with that postage stamp of a country. They are not the chosen ones. They are the descendants of the Edomites. They're Edomians. That's the Greek word. Remember Herod the Great? He was an Edomian, or you might want to pronounce it Idumean. There's a good reason why he's mentioned in the Bible. That's because he was from Mount Seir. He was from that stock, from Esau, whose name became Edom after he sold his inheritance for a bowl of Edom porridge, a bowl of red porridge. And you need to understand that the Jews in the Soviet Union came from Long Island. They were sent here by the bankers, the international bankers and our local bankers. That revolution, the Bolshevik Revolution, was launched from our shores illegally by the banking communities, the banksters. In particular, Schiff. Adam Schiff's grandfather, Jacob Schiff, called for that war. That's right. Launched from our shores against our ally, our real ally, the Tsar in Russia. I'm not done yet. I'm not going to stop. I'm going to keep going here. I don't know what's next on my mind. I don't know what's coming out of my mouth next. Yahweh, Creator, Father God, what is it you want them to hear? What do you want this person that's watching this video to hear? This is the big battle. This is the big fight. Israel is not our ally. Israel is the synagogue of Satan. The Jewish faith did not exist until the year 200 AD. That's when they started to put things down in writing. They kind of reverse engineered, if you will, or went back and censored the record and created the history. And since they own all of the media, you're not going to get this on the media. And at this point, most of the alternative media on the internet is tainted as well. So you're not going to get this anywhere else except from me, Dr. Kent. And that's what you're going to get. The truth is, I know it, see it, and understand it. And if I can be corrected, I'll invite you on here to debate me. Don't really want to debate, not really good. I get pissed off and I lose my temper too easily, so I lose too right there. I don't like debating. I like being right, and I like being corrected. Lorraine. What did I say? Lay down. Hey, down. Good girl. I haven't used that command in quite a while. I'm looking forward to spending more time with my dog. It gives me great joy. I'm looking at James Jesus Angleton. He hated and never used his middle name Jesus. And you will understand after you've listened to this darkest of spies. There's no telling how many men he's murdered. We have one CIA operative on his deathbed confessed to the murder of Marilyn Monroe. He was ordered to kill her. Marilyn Monroe was going to, they feared, announce one of the secrets that they knew she had from her lover, John F. Kennedy. And so rather than risk her spilling the beans, they killed her. And by the way, part of the motivation for killing Kennedy is that he got involved in the same thing. And the gentleman, Allen Dulles, and the majestic committee that ruled this part, that still rules this part of the nation, has a standing order that whoever is going to reveal their stuff gets suicided or killed, murdered, assassinated. So Kennedy was assassinated because he was going to go into their, what I believe was their secret space program as well. The deep state also refers to the fact that they have built the underground cities, a breakaway civilization at great expense to the rest of us, which is why they've been stealing our money by creating so much of it, by inflating it so much, so they can build these cities underground. The president at the time deemed it was best, and he thought he was making a decision to save all of mankind. Unfortunately, he didn't get the full story. If he had opened it up to the rest of the world, the scientific community, and allowed us to discuss it, he would have had input from the other scientists who would have told him, don't build there. That's the flood zone. All those people are going to be drowned just like a bunch of rats, which they have coming. That's also in the Bible. It's mentioned in the Bible. The World War is mentioned in the Bible. That's coming several times. Zechariah chapter 5 in particular, and in parts of Jeremiah where Yahweh says, I regard you as I regarded Sodom and Gomorrah and their neighbors. And he nuked Sodom. We have shed too much innocent blood. We break our treaties too much. We have lost our government structure. We don't have a democracy. We don't even have a republic. It appears as though this last election they tried to steal it. And so we don't have an accurate number of votes. An accurate number of votes would be along the lines of 80 million, 80% for Trump, 20% for Kamala Harris. The word is they're going to swear Kamala Harris in before New Year's Eve, taking Joe Biden out of office. And the word is also that there may be mass and vaccine mandates because they have to take action fast because we have another pandemic coming. Can you imagine that? Oh my God. I don't trust these people. They have all kinds of contingencies planned. Half of the psychologists and psychiatrists in the world are behind the scenes working for them, overseeing the management of the big plantation. You and I have just been slaves on this plantation. That's all we are to them. And they're eager to kill us. And they have killed approximately, well, it's almost 100,000 in the Carolinas. they don't want body recovery because they don't want to be caught for the genocide they've committed there. But it's at least 70,000, 80,000. They did a large genocide in Hawaii on us and a large genocide in California on us. And they're doing a genocide on us. Yes, us. Those are poor people. Those are actually descendants of the real Israelites, like most of us in America. Our founders know that we are Israelites. We are called Caucasians because our grandparents, generally speaking, our grandfathers and grandmothers, and we had a warrior princess involved in that one too, by the way. And that's a good book. The Anglo-Israelite Thesis. Oh, come on, I know the guy. I should remember his name. Benson. Read Benson's book. It's on Amazon. It used to be $10. It's probably 15 now. Get a copy of it. It's written at about a 7th grade level today. Well, 10th grade level. Actually, college level compared to what we're turning out today. Anyway, America is under attack like never before. I was hoping that my friend would let me interview him so that we could create a record between he and I and put it up, and it would be here forever, beyond our lifetimes, and it would motivate our fellow Americans, as LBJ was saying, my fellow Americans. God, what a horrible president he was. You need to understand, you and I are lucky to be here and be alive and to be able to talk about this. I've given you a bit of a record here, and I hope it's the motivation to do more research. I'm hoping that what we will do is we will give the world the Great American Reset. The Great American Reset, in which we restore our original structure that our founders gave us, which means all of those Supreme Court justices are sent home because it's not a lifetime appointment. May serve while under good behavior, and B is capitalized. They're pretty much all guilty of bad behavior, more than half of them. The other thing is that almost half of them are Israeli dual citizens. All Israeli dual citizens need to be removed, not just from positions, offices in the government, but officers in the bureaucracy, and actually from the entire country at this point. They shouldn't be allowed in the country. We need to separate ourselves from Israel. Israel is our real enemy. They're our most dangerous enemy. But people don't listen to me. Talk to my lady friend, who I've known for almost 20 years, and I explained to her the Bible last evening on the phone in short order. Well, I don't understand the Bible. It's that. Look, ladies, you don't take responsibility worth 2 cents. You don't want to be responsible. Eve didn't want to be responsible. Eve shucked responsibility, and everybody, all the Eves want to blame all the Adams today, which is a bad mistake. Of course, Adam's blaming the Eves too. Put the blame where it belongs, on the fallen angels. And the fallen angels gave us a race of people, if you will. I don't know if I want to call them a race, or a culture, or religion, a nationality, or what. But they are taking on the earth, and they've conquered the earth. America we got our asses beat a long time ago. They run us, they own us. Every senator, every congressman has got a Jewish handler. And when I announced my run for president, and the videos are still up on the channel, I told you I had a Jewish handler, which was a prerequisite to being president of the United States. And yes, I did it. I do actually have a friend. She's Sephardic, and yes, I really did ask her, and she said yes. She laughed as well. I know damn well that she'll hold my feet to the fire if that's what I deserve, but she'll be honest with me, and she won't lie to my face and tell me just smooth things and good things, which is what most of this public wants to hear, is good things, which is why Trump goes over so good with everybody, because he tells everybody what they want to hear. He's already been owned as a magi. Look up magi in the Bible. There were 3 magi that visited the child, and there was one more magi, and they formed the Roman Catholic Church based on that jackass in Acts chapter 8. So what I'm getting at is that We are dealing with a shrewd enemy. This is the fight between good and evil. America has been gone for a long time. We need to restore our republic. Thomas Jefferson told us how to restore our republic. The county of Jones, Mississippi, gave us an example. Not that I think we should follow the leader of the county at all. He was into miscegenation. I don't think that's, from my reading the Bible, that's not something we want to be doing. He loves his creation the way he made it. All races, species, whatever word you want to use, colors, peoples. You need to understand that America has been taken down to her knees, and they're ready, like great bullfighters they are, to take that sword and put us out of our misery. That's what they're trying to do right now. They want that nuclear exchange. Because they fear us. They don't fear the Soviets. They don't fear Russia. They're not worried about any other country on the planet. We are the target. That's why they took this war into the Ukraine. How many labs were there in the Ukraine? They just assassinated, and it was a terrorist action, the general who brought that to the public light. At least 22 biological weapons laboratories were active in the Ukraine at the time of the invasion. That's why they went in there, in part. And these labs are still working all the way around the planet, and they're working on gain and function. Only this time they're going after the big one. They want gain of function on the pox. They want us all to have the pox, and they will succeed. According to the Bible, it's in there. Read about the pox, it's in there. Read about the sunken eyes, the tongueless mouths, the effects of the nuclear war, the effects of the biological wars. It's all in there. And they're reading it, studying it, and pulling this from there and using it as their playbook. Also is in there is the fact that we wake up in the Spirit, in the Holy Spirit. You don't sit here and wait like some dumbass waiting for Jesus to come here and save your ass. He gave us everything we need, and He is this. Yes, He is the middle element in the Holy Trinity. He is the Word. The Word was in the beginning. And the Word also is in Greek, the Logos, the law. So my closing statement to you is this. I saw Him. A great toroidal energy field emanates from His being. I saw. This energy field is a tremendous field. I believe everything's controlled in that field. Everything's contained in that field. Body of Christ. I think we're all part of that. We're not that separated. Yes, there are some boundaries and some separations, and we have some free will, and sometimes we have at least the illusion of having free will. And we have demon possession, and we have angels showing up all the time, and we have the fallen ones here doing battle all the time. And we invite the demons in left and right by cutting and coloring, tattooing, piercing our bodies, praying and making deals with the devil. What do you think Hollywood does? Who do you think Hollywood worships? I mean, who do you think they worship? Look at the symbolism. Look at the behaviors. Listen to the lyrics. Listen to what they're advocating that you do. Listen to what they say is a good time. Having a good time. The truth is in the Bible, and there are other books. There are other people to turn to. There are people that are tuned in far more than I am. There's got to be prophets, male and female, around today that can tell you what's coming, what's next. I'm just telling you based upon my analysis. That's all. I'm just a Bible reader. I happen to be able to sell you a copy of this. Please buy a copy of this. I haven't sold one all year long. It's almost Christmas. It's the 23rd of December. Well, maybe it'll just be the year in which I learn that he's in control, not me. Folks, you need to read the Bible and cultivate the Holy Spirit. You're not going to get it any other way. And you need to live according to the law. The Ten Commandments are also referred to as the law of life. I like that title better. And that's from Ezra, the prophet Ezra. And that was in the Apocryphal books, one of the 14 books that was removed from our Bible. It's not in here. It is in the original King James. However, the source is questionable. The sources for it are questionable, and it's lacking many verses. In Esdras, to Esdras alone, and Esdras is the Latinized version of the name Ezra, in one chapter alone, 70 verses are missing. 70 key critical verses are missing in that edition. It's the quaint original English, and it has something to offer. I bought another copy of it. It remains sealed up on the desk here. I'm still looking for my old original study copy. If I can't find it, I have this for backup. I thank you for hanging with me. I hope you got something out of the video. I hope I've helped you a little bit. I've been getting a comment or two here or there, and a little criticism as well here or there. And I do answer as best I can. Sometimes the attacks feel a little bit ad hominem. Sometimes it feels like they're attacking my person rather than the ideas. It would be better to deal just in the land of ideas and to try to not take things so personally. I take things a little too personally. I did that as a child. It was a trait. So it was a difficult childhood. However, when I sit with one of you or with one of these youngsters today, and anybody under 40 is young today to me, never thought I'd be saying that. It used to be anybody under 30 was not to be trusted. And when I hear your stories, I'm amazed that you survived. And we do need to talk with each other more and get reinforcement and discharge some of this stuff a little bit more. We're not ready yet, apparently, and we're not allowed to talk among ourselves very much. We're censored all the time. And by the way, that Johnson fellow needs to be kicked out of Congress, not merely removed from Speaker of the House. In his bill, there were mask mandates and vaccine mandates, and above all, funding. Funding to continue. Censorship on YouTube and censorship on Facebook. The government owns these platforms. The government is censoring things from the background. We know that Twitter was such a critter as well. It's called Z now, or should I say T? The X sign. It's in Greek as well. I need you to understand, I don't trust Elon or his buddy Donald either. They're both owned. I think they both have got Edomite blood in them. Can one be saved who has Edomite blood in them? I don't know. My Catholic friends insist Jesus can save anybody. I don't think they're right. And I've run into a lot of sociopaths, and I've tried to do some redemptive work, so to speak, with them. No, you cannot. And I've also tried to help out those who were victims, PTSD victims of their own horrendous crimes, until I got woken up by a fellow psychologist, one of the great researchers in the field, and she straightened my ass up with one phrase as she turned around. She's walking away from me and says, I'm not desensitizing anyone to murder. Man, did I need to hear that. I thank that lady. She was older than I. She's probably retired by now. Psychology has been used against the country. The name of the psychologist who did, well, most of the damage, there's several psychologists. There was a psychiatrist who went by the nickname Jolly. His middle name was Jolly. I think it was spelled with one L, but they called him Jolly. He was a psychiatrist who's handled most of these murderers for the MK Ultra. There was another psychologist, I think there was a psychologist named Cameron up in Canada, who developed a lot of their techniques for them. And we also have the granddaddy of them all, Mr. Seligman, Dr. Seligman, who gave us learned helplessness. And why do I finger Mr. Seligman? I don't have my books in my library behind me. I sometimes think I need to step into a bigger coach that'll handle more weight so I can have the library with me so I have access to the books. But I've got 2 copies, hardback copies of Carroll Quigley's 1964 publication, Tragedy and Hope, and in those he mentions the Seligman family as being instrumental in the takedown of America. However, the name Seligman in his book, he misspelled it by 1 letter. Of course, these are name changers, and they'll spell their names differently at different times. So Carroll Quigley admired their goals and their work, and thought it was hunky-dory, and he wrote in great support of them, and he documented the fact that Mr. Seligman and his family are instrumental in the takedown of our country. All of our professions are turned against the laity. I don't have much faith in the physicians, and today I have several specialists. And what are the purpose of the specialists? To split the baby so that none of them are responsible for our deaths and our early demises. But yet all were involved. One hands us off to the others, and then they wash their hands, because it's all done under the standard of care. That's the standard of care. That's what such and such an organization advocates. We're discovering things so quickly now. I want to leave you with one word in particular. Don't you want to see what tomorrow brings? That's what motivates me, is I want to see what's coming tomorrow. Tomorrow, I think we may have our 47th president, and it's going to be a supposedly black female. I wouldn't be surprised if they swear her in, just to throw things off so Trump won't be number 47. They'll have to change all of that memorabilia and call him number 48. Who knows what tomorrow brings? Pray to Yahweh. Follow Yahweh's promptings. Follow his will for your life. And if you're not sure, ask him again. What's the greater good? And then say another prayer. Give me the ability to do your will. Give me the tools, the resources, so I can follow through and complete this mission. I think Yahweh's given me that, probably no more than that, and has me just where he wants me. A bit impoverished, I know, it looks opulent, but it needs so much work. It's not funny, and the work that it needs is worth more than what the coach is worth after it's all done. But it's home for now, and if I had a windfall, there's a couple other coaches that would probably suit me better, but I'd have to have deep pockets. Those are going to cost more to maintain. There's more to them. Buy one of my Bibles, give me a thumbs up, share this video, subscribe, and I have to tell you that I'm sure that everything you're watching, everything you're doing, all of this is being recorded, and not all of it's getting to the Congress. The government's not in charge. Those are just a bunch of puppets. We're getting more truth from that Tlaib Muslim congresswoman than anyone else. And I don't like how angry she gets, and I don't like the fact that she's a Muslim in office either. But the fact is, she is bringing some truth. She's speaking some truth, particularly about the genocide in the Gaza, in which the Israeli sons of a bitches are killing approximately 2 busloads of children, sometimes 3 busloads of children, on a daily basis. And there's other horrible things that they've done there that our news media won't let you know about, and I don't dare say, because it could be called misinformation. So I've told you the truth as close as I can and as near as I can. Could be I'm wrong about something, certainly. Could be I'm wrong about something major. If you can lend to this, do it. If you have questions or you want me to take this in a particular direction, do it. Order up. Tell me what you want. May Yahweh bless you. This is my message. The United States ship Liberty. Candace Owens. Personal message. Go watch it. Yahweh bless.